The stim tab hit like a clean burn. Joran sucked it in, felt the chemical rush ripple out from his chest, and for the first time in weeks, the weight of the shift dropped away. The fog behind his eyes cleared. The ache in his wrists and knees faded to a dull echo. He sat on the edge of his bunk, staring at the open gray box in his locker. "Told you," his bunkmate said from the top rack. "Stuff's good. You'll get through quadruple shifts on that." "Where did you say you got yours?" Joran asked. "Friend of a friend on 3 Delta. A shrug, casual. "Dock rats like us gotta look out for each other. Station isn't going to." The bunkroom lights flickered once, then steadied. The old steel walls hummed softly with the vibration of the ring. Joran closed the locker and told himself he'd only take the stim on bad days. Then he went to work, and the bad days kept coming. In the weeks that followed, normal shifted. Cargo manifests started arriving with quiet annotations. Rush unload, do not delay, trusted carrier. The stamps were official, or looked official, with Republic seals and routed authorization codes. The traffic office was too overloaded to question everyone. On the command spire, Reese signed off on priority adjustments he barely had time to read. So many medical and food shipments were marked urgent that the word lost meaning. "Another reroute?" he asked, eyeing the slate. "Yes, sir," his aide said. "If we don't clear that column by shift change, we're going to start stacking vessels into the shadow behind the gas giant orbit densities already at the red line." Ree rubbed at his temple. "Fine, move them up, but I want random scans on all trusted carriers. Half the smugglers in the sector forged these stamps." "Yes, sir, I'll tell customs." The order went out. Down on 3 Delta, it met the reality of Joran's stim buzz, a broken scanner, and a supervisor with a full board. "Random scans?" The supervisor snorted, glancing at the message. "With what? That unit's been offline for 2 weeks. Engineering says they'll get to it when they can." "What do we do?" Joran asked. "Log that a random scan was conducted." The supervisor tapped the console, fingers moving in practiced shortcuts. "Don't hold the line over a box the size of your hand. Move the cargo." Joran hesitated. "Commander Ree." "Is not the one down here getting limbs crushed when the conveyor jams?" the supervisor snapped. "Move. The cargo." The manifest was signed. The crates rolled past. In one of them, hidden inside a shell of processed grain, were sealed ampules of something clear and almost scentless. They were stamped with a symbol that never appeared on any official docs. A crooked crown and a little cluster of dots beneath it. The first real payment. People started going missing. It didn't happen all at once. First, it was a tech and power maintenance on L-Deck. His name was Davin, and everyone said he'd been talking about requesting a transfer off Asterion for months. When he didn't show up for shift, his supervisor shrugged and marked him as AWOL. There were forms to file. There were always forms. Then, 2 weeks later, a medic vanished from the Level 3 clinic. Her friend said she'd been burning out, stuck between undersupplied cupboards and an endless stream of sick civilians. Someone joked that she'd probably run off with a freighter captain. It wasn't until the 4th disappearance that Security Lieutenant Mara Ives put the pattern together. She stood in front of her wall of data, crimson hair pulled back, eyes fixed on the projection. Names, dates, last known locations. All from lower traffic zones, all from shifts that intersected with a particular set of docks and maintenance arteries. "Could be coincidence," her sergeant said. His tone said he didn't believe it. "Could," Mara said. "Or it could be someone building a network. Quietly, below the line." She pulled up access logs. The same badge IDs kept popping up. A handful of cargo handlers, a night shift engineer, a customs clerk on 3 Delta. "Get me their supervisors," she said, "and pull camera feeds from these corridors." "Half those cams are flagged as faulty," the sergeant said. "Ticket backlog. You know how engineering is." Mara exhaled slowly. "Then we go look with our own eyes." The corridor outside maintenance node L18 stank of oil and old coolant. Mara walked it with her hand resting lightly on her sidearm. Two security officers followed, helmets clipped to their belts, trying to look confident and mostly failing. "Here," Mara said. She stopped at a junction where two narrow passages met. The bulkhead was bare steel, patterned with old weld scars and rust. A camera housing sat in one corner, dark. According to the logs, Davin, Ral, Maris, and Eno walked through here on the nights they disappeared, she said, and never appeared on any other cam again. Could be a blind spot in the grid, one of her officers ventured. Blind is one thing, Mara said. Vanishing is another. She ran her fingers along the bulkhead. Something caught under her nails. The faintest line, a tiny indentation where the metal didn't quite match. "Get me a portable scanner," she said. The first pass painted the wall in blue outlines. The view showed ribs, conduits, empty space. Empty space where there shouldn't be any. "Hidden crawl space," Mara said. "Not on our schematics." "How?" "Pre-fall station." She cut him off. "We're still finding surprises. Get a cutter." It took 10 minutes for the engineering team to arrive. The cutter flared, a bright white line across the steel. The smell of hot metal filled the corridor. When the panel dropped, a wave of rot hit them like a physical blow. One of the officers gagged. Mara's jaw clenched. Inside the crawl space, lit by the pale beam of her lamp, were three shapes. They were lashed to improvised hooks, their uniforms stained dark. Their faces were covered in cloth bags, bodies cut open in ugly, clumsy slices. One of them was still moving. "Medic!" Mara barked. The closest body twitched, head turning toward the light. A muffled sound, wet and weak, came from under the bag. The medic pushed past, hands already moving, but it was too late. The man shuddered once and sagged. Mara grabbed the dangling ID tag and turned it. Security, one of her own patrol officers. Her stomach went cold. "Seal this," she said quietly. "No comm chatter, no rumors on open band. This doesn't go anywhere except to Commander Ree's desk and mine." "But do you want this station to tear itself apart before we know what's happening?" she snapped. "Because that's what rumors of a killer gutting people in the walls will do. We handle this smart, or we don't handle it at all." The officer swallowed and nodded. Mara looked into the dark space beyond the bodies. There were footprints in the grime, only a few hours old. And in the far corner, half hidden, a small gray box sat propped against a pipe. She picked it up and opened it. Neat rows of white tabs gleamed back at her, the same kind Joran Tal had in his locker. The rot wasn't just blood and bodies. It was running through the station like a drug. Commander Ree listened to Mara's report with his hands clasped so tightly that his knuckles went white. The hollow projection of the crawl space spun slowly between them. The bodies hung frozen in pale blue wireframe. Mara's voice stayed flat and professional as she listed times, locations, access points. When she finished, the command deck was silent. "How many people know?" Ree asked. "My squad, the engineer who helped cut the panel, and medical," Mara said. "I made it clear that any leaks would be treated as dereliction in a crisis. For now, it's contained." "For now," Ree repeated. He looked at the bodies again. One of them wore a security patch. "We have a murderer on the station," he said. "More than one, if they've been able to snatch people from monitored corridors." "It's not just murder," Mara said. "Look at the pattern. The missing had access to sensitive areas, power nodes, security feeds, customs terminals. Someone is targeting people with specific clearances." Ree's jaw tightened. "Sabotage," he said. "Or preparation for it," Mara said. "I've also pulled stim use reports. There's been a surge in the last month. Supply we can't trace to official channels." Ree cursed under his breath. Send a copy of this to Captain Dalen on Resolute, he said. Mark it eyes only, and start rotating your patrols. No one walks the same route twice in a week. Any more hidden spaces like that, I want to know. Yes, sir. And Mara? He added as she turned to go. Good work. Keep it quiet, but keep digging. Someone's carving this station out from the inside. She nodded and left. Ree turned back to the hollow. On the outer edge of his display, convoy markers continued their slow crawl through the Orth Halcyon lane. Each dot was a ship full of people. Food, medicine. Each one depended on the gate staying stable. The stabilizer health readouts pulsed in steady green. Everything looked normal. Underneath, people were being taken into the walls and butchered. On 3 Delta, Joran thought he heard a scream behind the bulkheads. He paused in the act of signing another forged log, the pen hovering over the slate. The sound had been faint, a strangled noise quickly swallowed by the hum of machinery. Did you hear that? He asked his supervisor. Hear what? The man said without looking up. Joran swallowed. Nothing. Thought I heard something. His fingers trembled. Sweat made the stim tab in his pocket stick to his skin. Finish the log, the supervisor said. We're behind. Those trusted carriers have to turn around quick, or command will have our heads. The freighter at the far berth started venting atmosphere into its lines. The symbol on its manifest, just for a heartbeat, flickered wrong on the screen. A crooked crown. A cluster of dots. Joran blinked. When he looked again, it was gone. He signed the log anyway. In the civilian quarter on ring segment G, a mother tucked her child into a bunk and listened to the distant rumble of thrusters through the hull. Why does it shake? The child asked. Because the gate is working hard, she said. It's keeping the path open, so ships can come and go, so food can come, so we can go visit Halcyon one day. Can we? The child mumbled, already half asleep. Go to Halcyon? Someday, she lied gently. Outside their thin bulkhead, 2 men in patched overalls walked past, talking in low voices. One of them slipped a small gray box into the hands of the other and nodded toward the docking level. First hit is free, he said. After that, you know where to find us. The child dreamed of open skies. The mother lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the too frequent footsteps in the corridor, wondering why the security patrols no longer passed at the same time every night. She did not know that it was because Security Lieutenant Mara Ives was trying to break patterns. She did not know that someone else was, too. On Resolute's bridge, Captain Dalen finished reading Mara's report and felt a cold certainty settle in his chest. This is it, he said softly. Sir? His aide asked. They're softening us, Dalen said. Taking our people, our eyes, our nerves. When they hit, it won't come out of nowhere. It'll come through doors we already opened for them. He looked at the tactical plot. It was clean. No hostile contacts, no anomalous signatures. Signal Commander Ree, he said. Tell him I'm recommending we go to elevated alert status. No more docked civilians overnight on the lower segments cut back traffic. I want this gate as lean as a blade. Sir, if we restrict traffic like that, there'll be protests from both ends of the lane, the aide said. Orth and Halcyon will scream. The Republic Council. Let them scream, Dalen snapped. Better they scream now than starve later. The aide hesitated. Send the recommendation, Dalen said, voice low. And log that I made it. The order went out, another message in Ree's swelling queue. In the time it took to arrive, 3 more gray boxes changed hands on 3 Delta. A maintenance tech signed off on an emergency reroute of power to a cluster of old, unused cargo bays. A customs clerk quietly altered the manifest of an incoming ship, shifting it from random inspection to pre-cleared. Asterion gate thrummed on, bright and busy, a steel throat ready for the knife. The people living inside it still believed, mostly, that the worst thing that could happen was a delayed shipment or a minor power failure. They hadn't yet imagined men in masks walking their corridors, taking their neighbors into the walls and never bringing them back. The pirates had. They were already on board. The first riot started over bread. The first riot started over bread. It broke out in the civilian quarter on ring segment H, 3 weeks after Mara found the bodies in the walls. The food shipments from Orth had been late twice in a row. Not very late. Hours, a half day, but long enough that ration dispensers started flashing amber warnings instead of green. Long enough that line controllers began telling people, "Come back in 6 hours, maybe 12. People with kids didn't like maybe. So when the dispensers on H-deck went from amber to red and stayed there, a crowd formed. Mostly civilians, a few off-duty dock hands, some low-ranked crew spouses. They shouted at the dispenser slot as if it could hear them. "We paid our tolls," a man yelled. "We have priority clearance," someone else shouted, waving a flimsy authorization ticket. The machine did not care. When 2 security officers tried to calm things down, they were pelted with empty ration bricks and old cups. Someone broke a wall panel. Someone else tried to pry open the hatch behind the dispenser. The riot was small. It was ugly. It was exactly what the pirates wanted. Hidden in the crowd, a man in a faded work jacket lifted a handheld camera and streamed the whole thing to an anonymous relay, tagging the feed with old protest slogans and new, angrier words. On a freighter drifting just inside the safe radius, a woman in a captain's chair watched the riot on a holoscreen and smiled. "See?" she said to the man beside her. "They're ripe. Council strangles them with delays. Command ration cuts them, and we come in promising food and freedom." "You think they'll believe us?" the man asked. "They don't have to," she said. "They just have to hate the people in charge more." She tapped the symbol on the screen's corner. The crooked crown, the cluster of dots, the mark of their warlord. The carrion crown was watching Asterion through the eyes of its own crew. Commander Ree watched the same riots a few hours later, stripped of slogans and filters. It looked worse on his display. Asterion's security cams showed faces twisted in fury, kids crying, an old woman knocked down and nearly trampled. His officers used stun batons and shields, trying to push people back without cracking too many skulls. "Casualties?" he asked. 4 in medbay, Mara said. "Mostly trampling injuries. 1 broken arm. One of ours caught a pipe to the jaw. No deaths." "Not this time," Ree said. He leaned on the console and felt the bone-deep tiredness. "We can't keep doing this," he said quietly. "If Orth doesn't increase food shipments, we'll have more of these. And rougher." "I've already filed the requests," Mara said. 3 times. They say supplies are tight on their end. Halcyon's screaming for more too. "And the council tells us to optimize throughput," Ree muttered, "as if we can conjure grain out of vacuum." He swiped the riot feeds away and pulled up traffic again. Some columns were marked in bright green. Medical ships, water haulers. Others glowed dull amber. Luxury freighters, non-essential cargo. A new set of icons blinked on the periphery of the grid. Incoming vessels, jump signatures just flaring into the lane. "New convoy?" Ree asked. The traffic officer frowned. "Partial convoy, sir. We only have 3 of the 5 expected ship IDs. The other 2, not on the schedule." Ree's eyes narrowed. "Source?" "Outer Rim," the officer said. "Filed as independent haulers diverted to relieve Orth. Transponders look legitimate." "Look isn't good enough," Ree said. "Flag them for full scans. This time, I want the scanners actually working." "Yes, sir." He thought of Mara's bodies in the crawl space, of the growing reports of stim tabs and gray boxes trickling through the lower decks, of Captain Dalen's recommendation to go to elevated alert. Ree keyed a channel. Bridge, this is Commander Ree. Put me through to Resolute's captain. Captain Dallin appeared in the holofield, his image slightly grainy from the delay. Commander, he said, you look as tired as I feel. Sleep when the lane's quiet, Ree said. We have new unscheduled arrivals in the corridor. I'm ordering full scans. Good, Dallin said immediately. I'll bring Resolute's close-in sensors to bear. If their hulls squeak, I want to hear it. That might conflict with Council throughput quotas, Ree said dryly. Council can file a protest after we're done keeping their arteries from being slit, Dallin snapped. We're past the point where we can pretend this is just bad luck and broken cameras. Ree hesitated, then nodded. All right. I'm going to recommend we cut civilian traffic by 20% until we get a handle on whatever's inside our walls. Make it 40, Dallin said. If they really want us to hold this gate, they'll live with delays. Ree sent the recommendation. It went up the chain, into the Republic's data arteries, toward distant desks and polished rooms where men and women weighed words like throughput and stability against campaign promises and trade deals. Hours later, the reply came back. Request denied. Maintain standard traffic levels. No unnecessary restrictions without verified external threat. Ree read it twice, then sent it to Dallin. On Resolute's bridge, the captain looked at the denial and felt something in him harden. Then we verify an external threat, he said quietly. In the lower decks, Joran Tal's world shrank to stim, sleep, and shifts. The tabs stopped being a treat and became necessity. Without them, his hands shook and his throat clenched. With them, he could move cargo for 12 hours straight, sign forms, look the other way when manifests flickered wrong. He knew. Of course he knew. He saw the same crooked crown symbol that Mara had seen on hidden boxes and altered manifests. He saw it flash and then vanish, like a glitch. Once, he confronted the woman from Marin's Hope in a shadowed corner of the dock. This isn't just stim, he said hoarsely. You're moving something else. People are going missing, security's sniffing around. Her smile was the same as the first day. And you're still here, she said. Still breathing. Still getting paid. You like that, don't you? He swallowed. If they trace it back to me, they won't, she said, because you're not the only one. By the time they follow one trail, we'll already have 3 more. You keep taking your tabs, keep signing your logs, and when the time comes to choose, you remember who fed you when your own command started cutting rations. I didn't choose. You did, she said gently. Every time you looked away instead of asking questions. She put a hand on his shoulder. When it breaks, she said, you can stand with the ones who already own you, or you can stand in front of them. You won't like that view. Joran watched her walk away. He wanted to run to security, to Mara, to anyone. Instead, he went back to the loading console and buried himself in work until his next tab. The rot had burrowed too deep for him to pull himself free. The killings in the walls changed. At first, Mara found victims with their throats cut and their bodies opened in crude, sloppy lines. Ritual wasn't the point. Fear was. But the next time her team cut into a hidden compartment, they found something else. The bodies were still there, still hooked on improvised meat hooks. But the cuts were precise now. Measured. Organs removed and sorted into neat metal trays, labels scratched into the steel. Kidneys, one tray read. Eyes, another. There was a pile of uniforms in the corner. Republic patches cut away, leaving only scraps. Mara stared, the light from her helmet lamp glinting off the metal. Organ harvesting? One of her officers whispered. Or practice, Mara said. Learning anatomy. Learning how to keep people alive longer while cutting them up. She felt bile in her throat and forced it down. These weren't rage killings. They were training exercises. How many compartments like this have we found now? She asked. 7, the sergeant said quietly. Could be more we don't know about. This station is older than anyone alive. If they have access to old maintenance schematics. They do, Mara said. They're taking people with clearance. They're taking time. They're not afraid of being caught. She straightened. Seal this, she said. Send the scans to Ree and Dalen, and double the undercover patrols in stim markets. This many bodies, this much organ meat. They're feeding someone. Of course they were. Some of the missing never showed up in compartments. Some of the cheap protein packs sold in back corridors tasted just a little different. The day the pirates made their first open move, it started with a power fluctuation. A minor brownout, the engineers called it. A misrouted flow in the subgrid feeding Dock 3 and adjacent quarters. Lights flickered, consoles rebooted, auto doors cycled. In the chaos, 3 unremarkable cargo crates were routed from an incoming hauler's bay straight into an old, disused storage module near the spine. No one scanned them. On the manifest, they were labeled machine parts, non-critical. Inside, 20 armed men and women lay curled in tight bundles, breathing bottled air. Their armor was dull, non-reflective, pieced together from scavenged kit. Every one of them wore the crooked crown on their shoulder. When the crate lids blew, they spilled into the dark with practiced efficiency. 2 minutes later, the power glitch fixed itself. On the command spire, Ree frowned at the report. Isolated issue, the engineer on the line said. We've rerouted around the fault. No long-term impact on stabilizer integrity. Find the cause, Ree said. Every glitch is a potential cut. I want the grid clean. Yes, sir. They never found the hacked relay. The pirates had already cut it out and moved on. The first command-level murder hit resolute. Captain Dalen's executive officer, Commander Hal, didn't show up for morning muster. By itself, that was strange but not unheard of. People overslept. People got sick. Except Hal never overslept, never got sick, and his door didn't respond to codes. Security forced it. They found him in his quarters, slumped over his desk, eyes open and staring. No sign of struggle, no obvious wounds. Then the medic rolled him over. A small puncture between his ribs, just under the left arm. No tearing, no blood spray. A needle, maybe, or a thin blade. Poison? Dalen asked, standing in the doorway. Most likely, the medic said. Or a micro-injector. Whatever it was, it did its job clean. Dalen looked at Hal's face. There was no fear there, no surprise. Either he hadn't seen it coming, or he'd trusted the person who did it. Dalen's hands balled into fists. Lock down all senior officers' quarters, he said. Security escorts to and from duty, no exceptions. Whoever did this knows our routines. He looked at the small object on Hal's desk, half hidden under a report. A gray box, the size of a hand. Dalen picked it up and opened it. Empty, but the smell lingered inside. Chemicals sweet, sterile, sharp. How long have we had a stim problem on this ship? He asked. The medic hesitated. A while, he admitted. Lower decks mostly. We've confiscated our share. Tried to crack down, but... People are tired, sir. Short-staffed. Extended rotations. Dalen shut the box. Not anymore, he said. From this moment, anyone caught with unregistered stim goes into a cell. I don't care if they're a deckhand or a lieutenant. If we don't cut this out now, it's going to kill us. He didn't know he was already too late. The poison in Hal's veins had come from a stim line. And the pirates had friends in places he didn't yet see. The breaking point came with a storm. Not a weather storm. Asterion had no sky, but a surge in the Orth corridor. For reasons the gate rights couldn't explain, the entrance aperture flickered. Bands of energy rippled across the ring. Ships scheduled to transit had to hold back, engines burning to stay in safe orbit while the stabilizer fought to keep the corridor open. From the command spire, it looked like the gate was breathing. Flux levels at 92% of tolerance, a tech called out. If we push any more mass through, we risk a harmonic collapse. Hold all outbound traffic, Ree ordered. Tell inbound to throttle to minimum. Nobody moves until the ring settles. Sir, the traffic officer said, we have 3 medical ships stacked at the entrance. Orth reports a plague outbreak in one of their sectors. Those ships are carrying antiviral loads for Halcyon. Ree closed his eyes for a moment. Tell Orth, he said, that if we push them now and the ring collapses, nobody gets anything ever again. They'll have to wait. There would be screams. There would be political fallout. There would also be a functioning gate in a week instead of a wreck. While the Spire wrestled with physics, Dock 3 became a bottleneck. Ships that had already docked couldn't leave. Ships waiting to dock couldn't approach. Crews grew restless. Civilians queued and re-queued and cursed. Down in the lower quarters, the stim markets were busy. Rough day, the dealer said, sliding a tab across to Joran. Heard some plagues hit the rim, Orth's burning. Doesn't have anything to do with me, Joran muttered. He took the tab anyway. Doesn't have to, the dealer said. All you gotta do is keep doing your job. Move the right crates, sign the right logs. Right for who? Joran asked. The dealer smiled. You'll know soon enough. The pirates chose that moment. When the gate was under stress, when the command spire was focused on flux readings and stabilizer harmonics, when traffic was snarled and tempers were high. The first sign on the spire was a glitch in the tactical feed. For a heartbeat, Resolute's icon blinked out and came back tagged with an error. Signal integrity drop from Resolute, a comm officer said. Might be interference from the flux storm. Verify, Ree said. The second sign was the sudden, simultaneous silence of 3 internal security channels. Mara was in the middle of a patrol route rotation when her wrist comm crackled and died. Control, this is Ives, she said, tapping it. You lose power? No answer. She gestured to her squad. Helmets on, she said. Weapons hot. Something just went wrong. The third sign was on Dock 3, where a cargo bay door that should have been locked stuttered and slid open. Behind it, 20 armored figures waited. They moved like a flood. It took exactly 58 seconds for the first pirate assault team to secure Dock 3's control room. They went for the operators first, short bursts, clean kills. Then the cams, 1 shot each, lenses exploding in showers of glass and plastic. The last man in line dropped a box on the console and hit a switch. Jamming fields rolled out, invisible but deadly to comms. Dock 3 to control, we've lost... A voice cut off in static on the spire. Say again, 3, the traffic officer called. 3 Delta, audio is unstable, repeat. More static. Switch to backup line. Ree snapped. Nothing. Security, he barked. Status on Dock 3? Silence. On his display, Dock 3's status icon went from green to blinking amber. On Resolute, Captain Dallon's bridge suddenly lit up with alerts. Comms disruption from Dock 3, TAC said. Internal grid showing anomalies. Could be local jammer. Sound general quarters, Dallon said. All hands to battle stations. Seal all internal bulkheads beyond level 3. No one moves without my authorization. Siren wails rippled through the dreadnought's corridors. In the lower decks, some crew ran toward their posts. Others paused. They'd been waiting for that sound. Gray boxes had passed from hand to hand. Promises had been made. Positions had been arranged. As blast doors slid down, some of them jammed. As security checkpoints sealed, someone on the inside cut the power to the locks. In 3 different places on Resolute, doors that should have held pirates out instead opened to let them in. Mara Ives heard the battle station's sirens and felt her pulse spike. Finally, she muttered. Her squad clamped helmets on. Visors dropped. HUDs flickering to life. "This is Ives to Security Central," she said over the encrypted channel. "We've got comm disruptions and battle stations on Resolute. Do we have confirmation of borders?" No response. "Central?" she repeated. "Mara Ives, Ring Patrol, acknowledge." Still nothing. "Jamming? Local grid down?" one of her officers asked. "Too many failures at once," Mara said. "Move. We head to Dock 3. If anything's bleeding, it's there." They sprinted, boots thudding on the deck, weapons up. As they rounded a corner near the dock approach, a door slid open ahead. A man stumbled through, blood soaking his uniform. Dock insignia. Joran's supervisor. He fell to his knees. "Back," he gasped. "Get back." Something hit him from behind. The pirate that followed had a matte black rifle and a blank mask painted with a crooked crown. He stepped over the supervisor's body and raised his weapon. Mara's squad fired first. The pirate jerked, armor sparking, and went down. Behind him, more spilled through. A dark wave, guns kicking, muzzle flashes strobing in the corridor. The first exchange ripped the hallway apart. Walls sparked, plaster and insulation filling the air. One of Mara's officers went down screaming, a hole in his thigh. Another's visor exploded in a spray of glass. "Cover!" Mara shouted. They fell back to a junction, laying down suppressing fire. "Control is down," she said, ducking behind a bulkhead as rounds slammed into it. "Dock 3 is compromised. Broadcasting wide. This is Security Lieutenant Ives. We have hostile forces on the ring. Repeat, hostile forces on the dash. Her transmission died in static. The jamming field had reached her. On Resolute, mutiny looked almost civilized. It started on Deck 10, weapons control. A petty officer turned to his console partner and shot him in the back. The sound was wrong in the confined space. Loud, concussive. For a moment, everyone froze. Then 3 more pirates, crew but not, pulled hidden pistols and fired into their own team. By the time security arrived, weapons control was in enemy hands. The mutineers pressed knives to officers' throats and forced them to send false status reports. "Captain, this is Deck 10, came the voice over internal comm. "We're seeing those comm glitches too, but no borders reported. Looks like interference only." Dalen frowned. "Something about that sound off to you?" he asked Tack. "Yes, sir," Tack said, brow furrowing. "That's Petty Officer Lars Relay. He doesn't usually handle that channel." "Get me a direct line to Lieutenant Eris," Dalen said. "She's in charge of Deck 10. I want to hear her voice, not Lars's." Silence. Then a different voice came on. "Captain?" the man said smoothly. "This is Eris. Systems are under control. No need to overreact." Every hair on Dalen's arm stood up. "Eris doesn't call me captain like that," he said softly. "And she has a burn on her left vocal cord from the Novus action. Her tone is rough on certain words that one was clean." He cut the channel. "Security teams 2 and 5, he snapped. "Priority target, Deck 10, weapons control. Treat all personnel as compromised until visually confirmed lethal force authorized." "Sir, that's—" "If we've lost weapons, we've already lost this ship," Dalen said. "Move." In the civilian quarter, sirens wailed and announcements crackled through the speakers. "Attention all civilians," a voice said. It sounded pre-recorded, but the timing was wrong. "Proceed to designated shelter zones. This is a precautionary measure. Do not approach docks. Do not attempt to board ships without authorization." The mother on ring segment G froze. "Mom?" her child asked, eyes wide. "What's happening?" "Drill," she lied. "Just a drill." But she opened the storage compartment under the bunk and pulled out the emergency pack she'd kept ready since the first riots. Extra water, ration bricks, a worn photo of her family, a small toy. "Come on," she said. "We'll go to the shelter and you'll see your friends there, right? Like a sleepover." The child clutched her hand. In the corridor, neighbors were already flowing past, some calm, some near panic. A man shouted that the docks were under attack. Someone else yelled that the gate had collapsed and everyone was going to die. Fear moved faster than information. The mother took a deep breath and stepped into the stream. Above her, on the outer hull, pirate boarding spikes dug in. Dock 3 became a butcher's yard. Pirates poured in through every opened bay, every hacked door. They moved with their own kind of discipline. Brutal, efficient, focused on targets. Crew who dropped their weapons and raised their hands were zip-tied and shoved into corners. Crew who tried to fight were shot. Jorantal crouched behind a stack of crates, shaking so hard he could barely breathe. The first pirates he saw were just shapes and gunfire, and then one of them was in front of his hiding place, kicking the crates aside. The man wore a patched pressure suit daubed in rough white paint. His mask was down. His eyes were visible through the visor, cold, assessing. "Name," he said. "J. Joran," Joran stammered. Doc Handler. I'm unarmed. The pirate reached down and grabbed his shirt, hauling him up with one hand. "You've been helping us," the man said. His voice was distorted by the helmet, but Joran recognized it. The dealer. Under the paint and armor, it was the same man who'd been passing him boxes and tabs for weeks. "That's good," the pirate said. "Means you get a choice." He jerked his head toward the bay entrance. Outside, Joran could see 2 lines of captured crew on their knees. Pirates moved among them, checking necks for stim scars, hands for inked marks. Those that passed some unseen test were hauled to their feet and shoved toward a different door. Those that didn't had their throats cut. Blood pooled on the deck plates, spreading slowly. Joran gagged. "A choice," he repeated. "Help us secure the ring," the pirate said. "Open doors. Show us the crawlway security hasn't found. Tell us who's going to fight and who's going to fold. You do that, and you live. Maybe even profit. Keep your stim. Get more. And if I don't?" The pirate's eyes didn't change. "Then you go in that line," he said. He let go of Joran's shirt. Joran sagged, knees hitting the deck. "Last chance," the pirate said. "We're on the clock." Joran looked at the lines. He saw his supervisor among the kneeling crew, hands tied, blood on his face. He saw the man who'd laughed about just logging the scan. He saw a kid from the night shift shaking and crying. He saw the knives. "I'll help," he whispered. The pirate nodded once. "Good man," he said. He tossed Joran a wristband. "Put that on. It tells my people you're useful. Don't take it off." Joran slid the band on. It was cold. He had chosen.
In the command spire, alarms multiplied. "Unauthorized weapons fire in docks 2 and 3, a tech shouted. "Internal sensors confirm multiple casualties." "Borders confirmed," Ree said grimly. "Seal all docks. Emergency bulkheads, override local controls. I don't care if we crush doors on their hands." "Jamming fields expanding," comms said. "We're losing packets. Local signals only." "Route everything through hardline," Ree snapped. "Use the old cables if you have to. And get me resolute on Laserlink. If we lose that ship, we lose this gate." The ring's schematic spun in the hollow. Red zones bloomed out from Dock 3 like infection. Ree watched them spread and knew they were seeing the surface of something that had been growing for months. "Where the hell are they coming from?" he muttered. "Commander," a gate-right called from the stabilizer pit. "Flux storm is easing, but the ring's still operating at high load. If we start power cycling bulkheads too fast, we risk harmonic bleed." "If we don't seal those bulkheads, we risk pirates in the stabilizer core," Ree said. "If they take that, they can force the gate open or shut at will." The gate-right swallowed. "Your call, sir." Ree looked at the hollow, at the red zones creeping toward the core. "Cycle it," he said. "Slowly." carefully, but cycle it. We hold the ring, or we die. On Resolute, the fight for Deck 10 turned into a slaughter. Security teams pushed into weapons control, expecting panic. They found entrenched positions, overlapping fire, tripwires on corridors. The traitors had had time to prepare. The first team died in a crossfire. The second barely managed to pull back with half their number bleeding out. Dalen watched the casualty reports stack. "Can we lock them out of the firing circuits?" he demanded. "Negative, sir," engineering said. "They've locked the local consoles and cut their node's connection. If we hard reset, we'll lose calibration on the main batteries in this flux storm. That could mean an accidental discharge into the ring." "So if we try to take our guns back by force, we might blow the gate ourselves," Dalen said. "Yes, sir." He wanted to scream. Instead, he keyed Internal General. "This is Captain Dalen," he said. His voice carried through every compartment that wasn't jammed. "We are under internal attack. Some of you have chosen to betray your oaths, your ship, and your own people. Know this: I will not surrender Resolute to pirates. If I have to ram this ship into the ring and break it in half to stop them from taking it, I will." He let that hang there. "To those still loyal," he went on, "hold your lines. Protect the reactors, the bridge, and the stabilizer interface. Do not let them have the heart of this ship. To those wavering, those who took a little stim, a little money, this is your last chance. Turn on your handlers. Turn your guns on the ones who gave you your poison. You can atone in the brig. You cannot atone in a pirate's meat hook." He cut the channel. On Deck 10, one mutineer's hand trembled. He thought of the extra food, the stim, the whispered promises. He thought of seeing his best friend's body hanging in a compartment, gutted for organs. He turned his rifle. He didn't even get the barrel fully around before another pirate shot him in the head. "Loyalty test," the pirate commander said, standing behind him. He failed. Civilians tried to flee. The first wave went for the lifeboats and shuttle bays. They found locked hatches and armed guards. "These crafts are reserved for emergency evac on command's orders," an officer shouted over the crowd. "Back up. There are pirates in the docks. You're running toward them." "We're not staying here to get shot," someone yelled back. Fists flew. Someone pulled a knife. A shot fired. No one ever knew from which side. A woman fell, clutching her stomach. The crowd broke. Some ran toward the shelter zones. Some ran toward any door that wasn't blocked. Some followed whispered directions from men with gray boxes in their hands. "This way. We know a route. We have a ship. For a price." The mother on segment G held her child against her chest as the crush closed in. "Mom, I'm scared," the child whispered. "I know," she said, voice shaking. "I know." A man grabbed her arm. "Dock 4, he hissed. "There's an independent freighter there, not under command control. They're taking people on, 10 credits ahead." She had 5. "I can't." "Then you can't," he said, and shoved her aside. She slammed into the wall, head ringing. The child screamed. Above them, the gate hummed, riding the edge of stability. The pirates were winning. Not because they were stronger or more numerous, because they had been inside for weeks, months, because they knew which cameras were blind, which doors stuck, which officers were soft, because they had bought the weak and killed the alert. Ree watched the red zones crawling on the holo display and understood. "This was never about a sudden assault," he said. "We've been under siege from inside since the first gray box changed hands." "Commander," the Gatewright shouted, "they're in the lower stabilizer maintenance corridors. We're getting pressure changes and unauthorized access pings." "Seal them out," Ree said. "If we seal those shafts, we cut cooling flow to the harmonics regulators," the Gatewright said. "We can hold for maybe 30 minutes before we start cooking coils." "Buy me 29, Ree said. "Then pray Resolute is still ours." It wasn't. Not entirely. Captain Dalen held the bridge, the reactor decks, and a ragged perimeter around engineering. But weapons control and two of the hangars were pirate strongholds now. Boarding pods under their control kept latching to new points on the hull more pirates spilled in, like maggots in a wound. One of Dalen's junior officers staggered onto the bridge, helmet under his arm, blood on his face. "Sir," he gasped, they're broadcasting on open band, to the station, to the whole sector." "Put it on," Dalen said. The main screen flickered. A man appeared, seated in a makeshift chair welded onto the bridge of what had been Resolute's observation deck. The chair was made of welded metal, and, Dalen realized with a sick twist, bone. The man was lean, with close-cropped hair and eyes too bright. A crooked crown was painted on the bulkhead behind him. At his feet, chained and kneeling, were two prisoners in torn Republic uniforms. "People of Asterion," the man said, smiling, "and all you little hungry worlds listening beyond. My name is Car Vale." Dalen swore under his breath. The warlord himself. "For years," Vale went on, voice smooth, "you have paid your tolls. You have waited in drift. You have watched your children go hungry while bureaucrats tell you to be patient. While officers like Ree and Dalen here," he gestured lazily, "count their throughput and write their reports." He leaned forward. "I am here to tell you that those days are over. The gate is under new management." He reached down, grabbed the hair of one of the prisoners, and lifted his head to face the camera. Commander Hal's dead eyes stared out. "We found this one watching you from a bridge," Vale said. "He thought his title would save him. It didn't." He let Hal's head drop. "The rules are simple now," Vale said. "You move when I say you move. You pay what I say you pay. You fight me, you die. You serve, you live. And maybe, if you're useful, you even prosper." He smiled again. "We are the Carrion Crown," he said, "and this gate is our throne." Behind him, on the outer hull, pirates were already welding grotesque additions to Resolute's superstructure. Hooks, spikes, cages. The first patch plates of stolen metal went on, hiding the old Republic lines. The maggot throne was being born. In the days that followed, horror became routine. Security pockets held out in some parts of the ring, fighting corridor by corridor. Mara Ives and a handful of officers turned an old maintenance nexus into a redoubt, rigging choke points with explosives and kill fields. They saved people. They also lost many. Joran guided pirate teams through unmarked access tunnels, pointing out security cams, hidden alcoves, routes to bypass bulkheads. Each time he did, he told himself he'd stop after this, that he'd find a way to send a message to someone loyal. Each time, the wristband on his arm seemed to grow heavier. Civilians were sorted. Those with useful skills, gate-wrights, medics, engineers, were tagged and put to work under pirate overseers. Those without were herded into cramped quarters and taxed in other ways, forced to give up valuables to work in waste reclamation, to serve in entertainments no one spoke about loudly. Some tried to flee. A few freighters, captained by desperate or courageous souls, cut moorings and burned for open space without clearance. Some made it. Most were hunted down by pirate strike craft and shot to pieces in view of the ring, their debris fields drifting like warnings. On what used to be Resolute's hull, Vale had bodies nailed to rails as a message. Toll dodgers, security officers, gate staff who'd refused orders. They hung there in vacuum, suits cut open, faces black and swollen behind cracked visors. From the command spire, now a contested, half-ruined tower, Ree watched until his feed died. The last thing he saw before the pirates finally took his deck was the ring, whole and glowing, and the dreadnought bound to it like a parasite, bristling with makeshift spikes and cages. The maggot throne. He thought of every recommendation he'd sent, every denial that had come back. Then the door blew inward. When the dust settled, Asterion was no longer a Republic gate. It was a slave artery. The pirates controlled the docks, the stabilizer core, the dreadnought whose guns now stared down the lane. They left just enough of the old structure standing to keep traffic flowing, on their terms. They let some convoys through after heavy fees. They seized others outright, taking their cargo and crews. They broadcast their executions. In the lower decks, stim flowed like water. Gray boxes were everywhere. Joran Tall walked through Dock 3 under pirate colors now, wearing a scavenged rifle on his shoulder. His eyes were hollow. He saw a woman with a child at the barricade, clutching a bag to her chest, begging a guard to let them on a freighter that was about to depart. "Please," she said. "We have family on Halcyon. We can work. Anything." The pirate at the gate jerked his head toward Joran. "Ask him," he said. "He knows who goes and who stays." The woman turned to Joran, hope and terror mixed in her face. He opened his mouth. He saw the wristband on his own arm, the crooked crown, the cluster of dots. He saw the knives, the hooks, the bodies on the hull. Something in him cracked. "Take them," he heard himself say. The guard snorted. "Soft heart," he muttered. "Fine. 2 more won't tip the mass." The woman sagged in relief. "Thank you," she whispered. Joran watched her go and knew it didn't balance anything. Nothing would. Behind him, on the screen that used to show Republic broadcasts, Carr Vale sat on his bone chair and smiled at a galaxy starting to understand what had happened at Asterion. A gate had fallen. A dreadnought had been turned into a throne.
And every missing person, every gray box, every small compromise had been a step toward this moment.